If you've been hitting into a net and staring at a TV, you know the feeling. It works, but it's just not golf. Today I'm going to show you how I transformed my basic garage setup into this fully immersive, professional grade simulator. We're going to go from a simple mat, net, and TV to a full-blown enclosure, hitting screen, high-def projector, landing pad. The best part, I was able to do this all in a budget without sacrificing the wow factor. A big shout out to the team at Carl's Place. I can't stress enough how incredible their customer service was. They took my rough ideas and helped me design a space that fit my garage perfectly and ensuring I had every measurement on spot before I began the build. If you want to see how to level up your home game, the transformation is night and day. As you can see, this is my old setup. I have a good SimSpace net, mat, and a square launch monitor with a TV displaying shots. It's a fine setup, but there are a few things that I could make better. First is safety. The net's only about 7 feet wide, and some of my visitors sent shanks into the wall and frame. I wanted to go a bit wider and get more of an enclosure to prevent the ricochets. The space is also a bit cramped, and I wanted a more immersive experience overall with a projector and a screen. So with all that in mind, I set out to upgrade. For me, the planning process began by thinking about space, how much width, length, and height I have for the sim. I'm lucky I have an extra tall garage door so I could fit the 7.7 by 10 foot enclosure under the garage door track. As you can see, I planned this all out in Excel initially, but then the Carl's Place support team turned my Excel into dimensional rendering so I knew where everything went. When my plans locked in, I started researching and ordering gear. I began the build by unboxing and laying everything out to be sure I had everything I needed. It all came in numbered boxes so I knew everything had arrived. Here you can see how well everything was organized when it was shipped. You can see the piping, the elbows, and the padding, all in separate packages. The DIY enclosure also came with instructions and a QR code linking to a demo setup video. It was a great video and I highly recommend it. I probably watched each segment 2 or 3 times as I was doing my build. To start the build, I made sure everything was laid out correctly. I made sure to plan for enough space behind the enclosure and get the frame base in the correct location. I started by connecting the pipes for the base frame. The connectors provided make this very simple and mostly a one-person job. Be sure you get the right elbow connectors in the right locations or you may end up redoing this a couple of times. I'd need a second pair of hands in a minute, but I was able to get most of the base done by myself. Then I was on to building the uprights. Again, this was a pretty easy one-person job. Just make sure you identify the right pipes and connectors to avoid having to redo your work. I did need a second set of hands to get to the top of frame in place. Once we had it all connected and tightened, I added some rubber pipe insulation around the front of the frame for extra safety. This is optional and was not provided as part of the DIY kit. With the frame in place, I began installing the enclosure fabric. While this can be a one-person job, 2 makes it a lot easier. You'll need to lift the frame to secure the fabric at the bottom. Once that's done, you can begin to secure the Velcro around the front of the enclosure, beginning at the front middle. You finish by attaching zip ties at the back to remove the fabric sag, being careful not to over-tighten. I moved on to hanging the screen using the provided zip ties. Try to keep even spacing all around and do not over-tighten at this point. Once the cable's secured on both sides at the bottom, you can tighten a bit to get rid of the sag. With the screen in place, you can finish the look by installing the frame padding. Note that the padding will wrap around the top corners and you may have to cut the next piece to fit depending on the size of your enclosure. Here you can see I'm starting to install the Velcroed enclosure around the foam padding. The foam padding is the white piece there behind me. The challenge you have on this is that the side enclosure has a lot of give. So you need to get a hold of that side enclosure to be able to create some tension to be able to push the Velcro against. Once you do that, you can just work your way down and try to smooth everything out. You can see I left a little bubble there. I ended up coming back later and kind of readjusting that section, but it's pretty easy. You get the one side of the wrap Velcroed on the right, you put the foam in, and then you do the left. Here I'm going to do the foam padding that I put underneath the landing pad turf. These are some inexpensive, almost 1 inch thick, maybe more like 3/4 inch thick foam pads that I got from Harbor Freight. It was about $12 per 4-pack, and I ended up using 5 4-packs. So this entire thing really only cost about $60. Obviously, as you can see here, they're really easy to put in place. It's like puzzle pieces. You know, these final 6 that I'm putting together here, I left the straight edges on, as you can see. Those are adjustable, and you can move which side. So each foam piece came with 2 straight edges. I ended up with quite a few straight edges left over. in doing this, but as you can see, everything goes together really quickly. This corner piece has 2 straight edges on it. Pop that in place, press it down, and then I've got these final 2 pieces that are going to go in. And once I'm done with that, that's basically the entire sort of surface that goes under the landing pad. On top of this, in a minute, you'll see I'm going to put on the landing pad turf, which was a really nice and expensive item that I found at Lowe's. So just kind of a final go over. I just kind of step on everything to lock it in place, and pretty much good to go now with the landing pad turf. And now I'm going to put the landing pad turf in place. As I mentioned a minute ago, this was some really expensive. It's like a needlepoint polyester 8x10 sheet that I got from Lowe's. The entire thing was like $45, maybe $50 with tax. In putting this in, I've done this a few times now. The biggest issue you tend to face is trying to get it centered in the hitting area and then getting the corners underneath. So what I found is most helpful is to try to roll up the end with the end rolled up, then try to get the turf centered, which I'm going to do here in just a minute. It's pretty easy to do with your feet. Once I've got it centered, then I'm going to roll the landing pad back, get it basically lined up from a depth perception how I want it. And then I'm going to tuck the corners in underneath the foam padding. So here I tuck in the left corner. Now I'm going to go tuck in the right corner. And one thing that's probably hard to see on here is I also use the little bit of Velcro that's at the very bottom of the padding enclosure, put that on the turf to try to keep it in place. But here you go. Nice, simple landing pad. I think the entire thing cost me just over $100. I didn't get video of the projector being installed, so I'm going to show you what we did. As you can see, I'm using the plug from my other garage door that's in the ceiling, but it only had one spot and I needed a couple plugs, so I bought an extension. The mount is extendable, and you can see here it has a screw where you can change the length of the mount, and then it just goes down and attaches to the projector. The other thing I did, because I'm using the square, is I'm using an Apple TV to AirPlay the app to the projector itself, and that runs into the HDMI on the projector. So as I get down, I can show you the projector's hung roughly the same height as the cross top bar of the simulator. Here is the final view of the build. I love how immersive it is, and I feel a lot less cramped than my prior build. The DIY build was pretty smooth, and I don't really have many mulligans to take. I'd probably gone a little harder in getting rid of things in the garage prior to the build just to make more space and create a cleaner environment. I did get my initial projector calculation wrong and had to return my first projector. I'll break down the projector install and the landing turf in future videos. If this was helpful, please hit like or subscribe. You can find more detail about the build in the description, and I'm happy to answer questions via email at info@yardstickgolf.com or in the comments. Thank you.